Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on today's edition of MUkraine. I'm Katerina Schrey, along with co-host Dr. Victor Fett and our producer, Professor Larry Schrey. We host a weekly discussion panel on Russia's war on Ukraine with guests from Ukraine, military experts, medical personnel, artists, academics, literary figures, and relief workers. Our panel is recorded and circulated nationally and internationally. And today we have several friends of our program joining us for a conversation with bandurist Jurij Fedynskyj. Special thanks to Marshall University Libraries and MUIT for making this weekly event possible. A quick greetings to our viewers in Ukraine. Вітаємо наших слухачів в Україні з глибоким поклоном. Ми далі свідки вашого страшного терпіння і також вашої великої сили. Все буде Україна. Дякую вам за вашу участь в нашій тижневій програмі. And today's guest will be introduced by Dr. Victor Fett.
It's my pleasure and honor to introduce composer, musician, American-Ukrainian, wonderful person, Jurij Fedynskyj. And before he speaks, here are some sounds. Thank you, Yuri. And Yuri is with us today. He is actually right now in North Carolina. Beautiful weather, and this is February 28th, the last day of the dreaded Luty. And we all are thankful for spiritual value that is kept over the centuries of Ukrainian tradition of this unbroken land. Yuri, please share with us everything about yourself, your family, your music, and your country.
Thank you, Victor and Katerina. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks to everybody who's tuning in. Where can I start? I'm a musician, but not just. I grew up in North Carolina, right? Raleigh, North Carolina, half my life. But then, always had a feeling that I'm not maybe so American. Maybe I have some immigrant, relations from my grandparents. Maybe this language that they talk, which isn't English, which is Ukrainian, maybe there's something special about that family, about that country. And so after my studies at university, in East Carolina University, and not far from here, I'm in Rocky Mountain today. So this is Greenville, North Carolina. After studying classical piano, I went to visit Ukraine. And I've stayed there ever since. Not because it's an easy life, but actually quite the opposite. That it's very difficult. It's very interesting. It's completely different than what we have in America. But just the idea to finally be able to go home. Even though my friends, the bass player in the university said, don't go to Kyiv. They will kill you for your tennis shoes. Or my grandmother saying, don't go to Ukraine. Don't even think about it. We got out of that place. It was hell. She lived through World War II and all the horrors of Stalinism and the Nazis and everything. So, in 1998, when I come to Lviv, I fell in love with it. I had a fantastic time, really emotional, really, strong purpose of finally not being an immigrant, not having to compromise, my language or my name or the music that I play. So I decided that I will work in Ukraine and support people who also do not want to be Soviets, do not want to be slaves to this Muscovite empire, which never packed up and went home. I found great purpose, supporting the folks that are willing to risk everything, not for money. Nobody makes money, especially in the realm of folklore, ethnic music, but just a fantastic purpose that we are doing very serious work, and it's helping Ukrainians open their eyes to see that we are not a slave nation, and just the process of people regaining their culture. It's been fantastic. And then, after many years of just living in Ukraine and having concerts everywhere from east to west, during revolutions, the first and the second, but now coming abroad and practicing this interesting Ukrainian tradition of the blind bards, the kobzars, and being able to rally the free countries of the world, the citizens, to be able to host concerts, continental concerts of UK, just 2 times. I've had 2 tours of UK, Europe, 3 tours, America. This is my 7th tour in America, the 3rd during the 3-year war, and rallying support to our cause of a free world, not just in Ukraine, and especially today in America. I mean, I worry about Ukraine. We have a genocide for 3 years, but now, without, one of our biggest allies, it's a question, what happened to that ally? Do we still have that ally? And I know the citizens of America still very much support our cause because they are freedom lovers. But now the pace of genocide might increase. So this is very worrisome, but at the same time, I'm worried, maybe, and not just as an American citizen, but somebody who sympathizes with other people who want freedom and democracy. This is the Ukrainian cause. What is happening in America? What do we have to do to get America's act together? Understand, I was a Boy Scout. I was an Eagle Scout. I'm the most patriotic. My great-great-great-grandmother was a daughter of the revolution. I am not a foreigner here in America, even though I was interested in my Ukrainian roots. So it's been a pleasure to come to America these first 2 tours. And Americans say, we're so happy that the Ukrainians are freedom people like we are. What is it about the Ukrainians? Why are they so fearless? Why don't they just leave? Who could take on the Moscow army? But this tour and this time in America is the most difficult because I need to find those allies again. I need to tell them the truth in Ukraine about Ukraine in history and what's happening now. And I'm so happy, I'll end with this, that I'm in the right place at the right time. I'm using this old Ukrainian tradition, which was by the Stalinists in the 1930s, people who sing songs of morality, spiritual strength and freedom. And with that tradition, as an American, trying to, to rally them to our freedom cause. But it's not just about Ukraine today. And every American certainly knows that something in America is changing. We want it to change for the better. We want to make America great again. This is my cause. I want to make the free world even freer again. That's my cause. But how do we do it? How do we do it correctly? So I'm at the right place, the right time. I'm going to do my best. I am not here to divide and conquer as Vladimir Putin would like to do, divide America into the left and into the right, as Mazeppa once said. I'm here to ask all Americans to not let the enemy divide us and conquer us. It's time for America to unite, and we Ukrainians want that type of free ally. And that's what I'm here for. We want a united free world, not a separated world where every country for itself. This is not the America I grew up in, and I will do everything in my power with positivism and love to ask Americans to ask what is more valuable, freedom or eggs. I like eggs too. We have fantastic eggs on the farm. But the same thing with Europe. What is more important, cheap gas or European freedom? And I know there's still Americans. They live in each one of these houses. And they haven't forgotten what freedom is. And I hope they never do.
You mentioned positiveness and love. We've seen quite a few videos of you in preparation for today's program, and you certainly embody both of those traits. You've also done what I like you. I was born here. I am the child. My father is Ukrainian, my mom's Latvian, and I grew up in a very Ukrainian-speaking world. Ukrainian. You mentioned the Eagle Scout. I was part of PLAST, the Ukrainian scouting program, Saturday school. Churches in Ukrainian. I grew up speaking Ukrainian. And so I was surrounded by people, many people who, when we all hit our teens and 20s, were like, I'm going to go to Ukraine. I'm going to ride horses across Ukraine. I'm going to go live in Ukraine. And some have done it. Some have done it. I have two cousins who spent close to a decade each in Ukraine. One found his wife there. And so, but they've come back. You are the only person I know who's literally moved to Ukraine. In one of the, and I appreciate when you talked about how not being an immigrant, and I think I understand a little bit of this. My first time in Ukraine, I've always been Ukrainian American, and now when I was in Lviv, I was like, that umbrella of American was gone. It was just a very strange. We talk about complexity of identity a lot in this program. So where am I headed with all this? So we all admire and love, and we're going to get back to the politics and the current events. We'll get there, but before that, a little bit more about your story, how you came to Ukraine, because it is unusual, and specifically the bandura. Why the bandura? I think we know the importance of the role of the bards in Ukrainian history and literature, but you are completely bringing it back. I like, there are no recordings of it, like, so talk a little bit about that, please.
Well, I mean, growing up not in the diaspora, I would have loved to go to Ukrainian Scouts instead of American Scouts, but it's no big deal. Eventually, I did find the diaspora.
Wait. Is there a Ukrainian community in Rocky Mount? Is there a Ukrainian community in North Carolina? Because in Philadelphia,
but
no?
Aside from us, I met a Romanian guy at the YMCA. That's the closest
so
thing.
this is amazing, because you're Ukrainian. Obviously, now it's excellent. But I would not have guessed that you did not grow up in a Ukrainian community.
No, we didn't. Nobody. We were the last. I mean, really, you might, the analogy of the last of the Mohicans. This was my situation. I was not supposed to be Ukrainian. I was supposed to be all-American, be a doctor, a lawyer, or something. But that didn't do it for me. And really, I do believe I was pulled back to Ukraine with this mission. I mean, I believe in, divine providence. So at 16, I went to a bandura camp, and my teacher was Julian Kytasty, the grandson of Jurij Fedynskyj, the great bandurist. And after about 5 years at that camp, I was ready to go to the next stage, which was go to Ukraine and study with other folks in the Kyiv Kobzar Guild who were reviving this lost tradition of the Kobzars, of the blind bards. So after working with them for 10 years, learning how to make instruments, how to play the instruments, really, practicing the tradition with them in Kyiv, I decided to move to the Poltava region, which is in eastern Ukraine. And there we have, I created a family. We have 5 children, lots of ethno projects and festivals and instrument making. Moving back to America isn't part of the program. But coming to practice tradition in America, this is the program. And this is super unique because I'm from here, but I'm from there. And I know this tradition, which really is used in eastern Ukraine to keep that part of Ukraine free of the past 130 years, from 1700 to 1933. So now practicing tradition here in America, it's very strange. People don't know these old texts. It's very old language, but the emotions in the instruments, in the compositions, in the texts. It comes out. Music is an international language. I tell people what I'm singing about, but it's the feeling of the aura of these blind bards. And this is something I truly believe in. Not, becoming, the president of a country or doing some political, something activism. I am a cultural activist, but how do I do it? I do it through a spiritual music making tradition of really, missionaries who travel the world preaching the truth and having a fantastic inspirational 7 years that I've been doing that in the Western world. This is 7 years of constant practicing this tradition in serious concert halls and stages in churches. So it's inspiring. I love my work. It's fantastic. I have a very, I don't make a lot of money, or usually I don't make any money doing what I do, but I have a fantastic, inspiring life. And that's what I really love, is when I'm not just happy myself, but people are inspired, and really fantastic profession.
We're going to hear a clip of, I think it's Marussia Bohuslauka in just a few minutes. And I was really struck by how the storytelling it's all about storytelling, at least for me. I have very little musical background, and in fact, when you see someone with a bandura, my first thought was I was prepared for a song, a traditional song, but in fact, it's not what we're hearing. We're hearing maybe a ballad, but surely as a medieval, so my training is medievalist. My area of expertise is Beowulf, and at the center of every Anglo-Saxon story, you have a bard, a storyteller in the middle of a mead hall. For the first time in my life, after watching clips of you perform, I understood better and more fully the power of that and what you're doing. You are preserving Ukraine's history, Ukraine's culture, and you're building her future. It has absolutely moved me to tears. The talent that you have and how you use that talent. I would love for our audience to see that clip. Victor, if you can go ahead and load that up. I think we can all see this together. And I'm not sure the setting for this. Oh no, I think this is just a independent performance. This is not in one of the classrooms or anything like that, right? This is Marussia.
A studio in Kyiv.
Okay. So we'll hear that in a minute, and our audience will really begin to see and appreciate the value of the oral tradition. Especially in difficult times like this, where you're trying to preserve the identity of a nation. I mean, this is it. The
Dumas are very central. This is the most central works of the Kobzar repertoire. Besides the spiritual hymns, the Dumas, the epic songs. These are, central. You could even call them Zaporozhsky psalmi, the Psalms of the Zaporozhians. They are parables dealing with Cossack themes, such as Cossacks being freed from slavery and going home.
Oh, I think that's what we're about to hear. Yeah?
I hope so.
Yeah, that's great.
This one.
I mean, how rare is it that we get to actually talk to the artist? We see.
шаг признавали, кайданами запрещали, словами проляли, слезами умывали. Дівка Бранка, Маруся побігла Богославку, хочемо ми знаємо, що в нашій землі християнській назад тепер. Вже ми 30 літ тяжкі турецькі каторзі пробуваємо, та Божого світу ні сонця праведного не побачали. Ей, козаки, ви бідні невольники, що в нашій землі християнській. Сьогодні Великодня субота, а завтра дасть бік великий праздник роковий Великий день. Ей, то як таємно закували, угору руки піднімали, кайданами забращали.
Bravo!
Дякую, дуже дякую.
What was that like watching yourself?
It depends. Now it's very emotional, of course. Watching it with other folks like yourselves and thinking about what you're going through. Very, very emotional. An actual interesting. The epic tale was called a duma, but there was another word they were called the plach, the cries. So this is a song where you cry. As one Jewish lady in New York said, "Oh, he sings like the rabbi on Saturday."
Oh, that's funny. There's a Ukrainian literary tradition. There's a Ukrainian literary tradition of trenos, which is lamentation, weeping. There's actually that's part of our cultural history, I think.
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Spiritual songs, even possibly influenced. There was lots of Jewish musicians and Jewish settlements in Ukraine. Victor was telling me about, his ancestry. And realistically, the Dumas are very, very lots of parallels to Jewish culture, to King David, an instrument maker, a creator of the hymn. Even this specific Duma about Marusia Boslavka, the heroine, she's very similar to Roxolana, the favorite Ukrainian wife of one of the sultans. She is the Ukrainian Moses.
Yes,
she said, "Let my people go back home to Ukraine." This is a direct analogy of Ukrainian and Jewish cultures, and even in the sound of the singing, this is something very, very similar. And it's a good analogy, especially today. We have a fantastic Jewish American President Zelensky from Kryvyi Rih, tak samo jak pan Victor. This is, a very interesting time for us because we all want to go home. Do Americans want to go back home? What happened in the days of Reagan? Everybody's saying. I'm saying, where's Reagan today? What would he be thinking if he'd been looking at us? And I think he would be saying, Americans, look at the Ukrainians. They have something to teach you. This is not about guns and weapons. This is about freedom fighting. This is about standing up for your culture. This is about not being bullied by Goliath or Putin or any other bully that says you need to kneel before me and say, glory to the king. This is not Ukrainian. Ukrainians, very interesting. We were one of the first European cultures in the Cossack Baroque to have a democratically elected president called the Hetman. This is before any constitution was written. So we had a very free government, and that freedom is still in us. It's come out the past 3 years. The world sees it. And I really, really hope Ukraine can keep the free world together. I had an interview with ABC Frontline the day before Zelensky, several days before the Blitzkrieg 3 years ago. And they said, we're going to have to give you a test, right? Tell us what you're going to say. And I should have held my tongue. I said, Americans, don't worry. We Ukrainians will have a big war with Russia. It's our time to settle our situation with Russia. We will be victorious. We will help Russians go home. We will teach them to be good, Democrats, or, have a taste of democracy. But I told ABC that in America, this is 3 years ago, America is going through a very difficult problem, just like in World War II, when Europe was divided by the so-called fascists and the so-called communists, and now we know they were all fascists. I do not want America to be divided into the left and to the right. This is not American. This is not Christian. This is not spiritual to hate your neighbor because of his different political affiliations. And we need to act fast. I'm talking about this week, next week, these months. We Ukrainians do not want Third World War, but we do not let Putin take us all over. And I have a really dark feelings these past several weeks. I mean, I have never had such a bad several weeks. Praying for peace, praying for, a good outcome. But I've come to the realization that it's okay. This is just a trial and tribulation. Watching just recently on Netflix, the story of Moses and the things the Israelites dealt with when, like, on a daily basis, they thought they were going to die by the Pharaoh, by, the Red Sea drowning them, by other problems, starvation. And I realized this is what is happening. This is what God is putting us through now. We, the free world, are rebirthing. It's changing. And I know the world will look to Ukraine as a leader. I know we Ukrainians will defend the free world, maybe to the last drop of Ukrainian blood. I don't like to talk. I've never talked about this to anybody. Once I get back to Ukraine, I will join the Foreign Legion, not as a shooter, but I may do some shooting. I'm a Boy Scout. I'm actually a trained shooter. But to sing these spiritual songs to the troops. We've been doing this for 3 years, but it's time for maybe some officiality. So this is kind of the plan now. The circumstances look dire. Somebody said just, an hour ago that we have no cards. We have no choices. We always have choice. And our choice is to do the right thing. And that is stand up for freedom, stand up for our country. And I know every Ukrainian back home will tell any American the same thing, that we want peace more than anybody. We'd be happy to make a deal, but it's got to be a peaceful deal, not a genocidal deal. So we will, find partners in Europe. Thank God Europe is stepping up to bat. England said they would put boots on the ground. And I know America is not lost, and not 50% of America, 100% of America. Even the new immigrants who've come in, they also came to America for a reason. And it's not just to make money. It's because we do have freedom here, and it's not lost.
Hi, you mentioned, your future plans, God bless you, God protect you. We have plenty of clips of you actually playing at very dangerous locations. We have clips of you playing at a bombing site, I believe in the subways as a makeshift bomb shelter, and I believe all the way back to the Orange Revolution, maybe not, yeah, I guess that. So,
yes.
And
Orange Revolution was first training ground for freedom fight. Yes.
Yeah. So we'd like to share some of that footage right now. It does not do your singing justice but that's not the point of the clips. The point of the clips are to show where you are and what you're doing. And then when we come back from that, I'll invite we have many of our regulars are our guests today, to go ahead and open their mics and ask questions. I mean, what you're doing is surreal. You are preserving Ukrainian culture in these moments and sites of absolute horror, and it's such a contrast, the hopefulness, the joy, the love in your singing with the reality in which you're standing, but you're testament to the fact that love does triumph. I mean, and there's a real spiritual dimension to your songs. I know we didn't, before we do that, I didn't give you a chance, and I'm so sorry. Tell us a little bit about that song, about the song, the Marusha Bohuslavka. It's the Cossacks in captivity, right? And I know you alluded to the parallel with Moses leading the people out of captivity into the promised land. But were you able to explain that you feel comfortable with how much you've told us? Would you like to tell us more about that particular piece?
Yeah, so the epic song is basically you have Cossacks who are prisoners of war. They lost the war. They're in captivity, and the Ukrainian heroine, who is a concubine, right, a sex slave, she comes down and says, "Cossacks, would you like to go home? I will steal the key to the dungeon and let you go home to defend Ukraine for another generation." And she does this, and she's probably killed for stealing the key. But the idea is that even though it might seem difficult to go home, I mean, I'm here with my family of 5 children. We will be home in June, regardless of the situation. And my neighbors tell me, Yuri, don't leave our village with your family because you did this a week before the Blitzkrieg. And we know when the Muscovites are going to come in, and we see you leaving again. It's the second time during the period we have left our family to America. But this time we're not fleeing. We came as a family to practice this Kobzar tradition. Now, my children aren't Kobzars, but we sing a lot of other genres such as Cossack village polyphony, Ukrainian early music, Cossack Baroque, and some other reconstructions of a Renaissance England, things like the Battle Hymn of the Republic, at Lincoln's time. So again, music of defense. And I tell my neighbors, it's okay. We'll be back in June. We champion the Ukrainian cause, but with the conviction that the Muscovites will not win. Our enemies, they may say we are big and bold and we have lots of resources. We have, the biggest armies in the world. But we Ukrainians, can only do what we can do, but I am convinced there's still a lot of freedom in the world, and especially in America, and America will not watch us die.
Well, that's beautiful. Thank you. I want to go back to really quickly. You mentioned that the heroine here is a woman figure. It's interesting that in Ukrainian literary tradition, women figures are not uncommon. Heroines are not uncommon. I'm thinking of Slovo Polku Ihoreve, where Yaroslavna is the one who intercedes with nature for nature to save her husband, who is in captivity among the enemy. So this conversation is kind of really a great opportunity to tap into other aspects of Ukrainian life, Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian heritage.
Certainly. Well, Ukrainians generally are matriarchal. It's very important to say. Although, maybe that's what it is. Matriarchal culture, similar to Jewish cultures.
So I think, Victor, if we're ready to show the clip.
I will try to show this clip. 1 second.
Some truly heroic moments we're about to see. And you're not alone in these moments. We'll say, oh, no, this one you are alone. Okay, yeah, so this is really powerful.
Нема в світі правди не зіскати, що тепер неправда стала вже правдою звати. Ще тепер правда ногами топтають, а вража неправда медвіном напувають. Що ще тепер правда у темниці, а вража неправда з панами в світлиці. Вже кінець віка, кінець приблизиться, хоч рідного брата тепер стережіться, бо вже тепер правда, правда вже померла, а вже не правда, увесь світ зажила, а хто тую правду буде поважати, тому сошле Господь з неба благодаті. Бо сам Господь правда сокрушить неправду, сумирит гордину, вознесе святину.
Wow, that is quite a scene. That sound we're hearing, at first I thought it was bombs, but I think it's the wind, correct? It's just the wind, right?
Yeah, it's a very cold February. Yeah, it's March probably at that point. That's Bucha, Irpin. Everybody's heard of Bucha, where all the butchery happened. And right when the liberated territories opened up, right after demining operations took mines off the roads, we were one of the first, groups to actually get in. It was very difficult. It took us all day taking back roads. But we wanted to cleanse the territory, feel what happened there. So this is, again, right outside Kyiv, where the Muscovite camp was bombing with howitzers for an entire month. But then we eventually pushed them back. They fled back to Moscow, were decimated, and we went to that territory to feel the aura. And you can tell, very, very dismal, very negative, як ми кажемо по-українськи, оскверні територія, знищені територія. But this is something we do. We come to, with positive, songs of healing and of defense, cleanse territories.
You definitely get the sense you're cleansing. That's incredibly powerful footage. I want to point out the main word we're hearing in that song is pravda, pravda, pravda in different contexts. Truth. Yeah, truth. So one quick comment, and then we'll turn it over to anybody who wants to ask a question or weigh in.
Okay.
What's really remarkable about you, and I don't know if this is true of the cultural tradition in general, and I suspect maybe it has more to do with you as an artist, but the passion, the expression with which you play, it's so obvious that you feel what you're doing at the cellular level. It's such a rare opportunity to see an artist fully engaged with his art. It's truly, truly beautiful. Beyond what you're doing, it's truly, truly just beautiful in and of itself. So with that, це моя приємність, це було знамените. Я пробую не плакати. And we do, by the way, have among our audience today, I see another person who grew up like we did. So she speaks Ukrainian, but she's an American. She's a newcomer to this area. So anyone on the panel and any of our guests asking questions, by all means, open up your microphones, and I'll let Victor moderate that part of it.
Please, I'm also speechless. Thank you, Katerina, for moderating this. I must admit I'm not a big music person, but I see probably for the first time in my life, definitely here in America, the real power of what you are doing, spiritual, musical, cultural, whatever. And let us hope that this power will transcend everything else, because we are really in a junction in history. That's why we are doing this program for 3 years nonstop, because we started with desire to do something, and now we are in it. And you are doing much more than we can, but we all will be judged by what we were doing in February 25, 24, 23, 22. And
Yes.
this is already the book of history, or probably very important history, having
Yeah.
having been
Very
written.
true. I remember, Victor, interesting, right before the Blitzkrieg, when I was thinking, should I flee Ukraine with my family or not? I mean, we saw on American news, my mom calls up, said, what are you doing there? Do you see there's, hundreds of tanks, aren't you, fleeing at this point? And I just thought, well, yes, I could flee. I evacuated my family that, several days before. But just the idea that, why am I doing, what is my profession for? What am I singing these songs for? Have I been preparing all these years, making instruments, learning songs, living through hell, living in Kyiv without money for, 10 years, living in a village without money for, with 5 children for how many years? And the answer is, I'm ready. And hopefully a lot of other Ukrainians and people of the free world are also ready to step up to the bat and do some heroic things. And I did think, yes, the worst thing for me would be to flee Ukraine 3 years ago. And had Ukraine lost our country again, I would feel responsible and guilty, and I would live in that guilt. And the decision was, no, if God is with me, everything is possible. Even to stand up against the Russians in their huge army, their second largest army in the world, maybe now the first, it's a question. And we have held our own. We've taken most of our territory back. We're doing fantastic. We're almost there. And I really hope America will not pull the plug, but the aid was stopped. U.S. aid was stopped. Congress just recently said, sorry, Ukraine, time to end the war. Well, it doesn't end the war. It ends Ukraine. But this will not happen. This is the next phase of the war, that we become even stronger. But most central, Victor and Katerina and Solomia and John, is that we do things correctly. We don't become negative. We don't become hateful. God will be with us if we defend our countries and world the right way. And what is the right way? To do it out of love. Every volunteer action must be out of love, understanding, patience. As Archbishop Daniel said today, we need to be patient. We need to pray, and we need to work. And I hope that every person in the free world will do something. We don't need just money and guns. These are neutral things, as Husar said, one of the heads of the Catholic Church in Ukraine. We need love. And with love, you can end the conflict without guns and money. I think that's what Jesus would say and is saying. But even if you're on the front line with, your gun that you have, if you have to kill, do it out of love for your country. Do it out of love for Russia. This is the only way to teach Russia. They only understand brute force, and they will respect us, and eventually they will love us. Not today, maybe not tomorrow. But we need to be an example for Russia. We need to be an example for America. We are the example. And I'm so proud to be a Ukrainian, American Ukrainian. It's a specific category. And honestly, Americans and people of the world, step up to the bat. This is not the time to appease the fascist beast that should have been killed in World War II. They let Stalin exist. Some folks are going to say, how can you, stand up to Putin, as Macron said many years ago when they invaded Georgia? And other people say, like the son of some politician, well, isn't Russia like the best ally? They have minerals, they have, bombs. What does Ukraine have? They're losers. This is all an illusion, folks. The spirit is what will end this conflict positively. God does not want Ukraine to die. God does not want America to fall. God wants us to develop, and this is how he puts the fire under our arses. Let's get off the couch. Let's get out of the comfort zone and do something good for our world. This is the lesson. I think we'll pass, but we got to live through this. We got to work through this. And please, I'm doing the best I can. I didn't think I could play 600 concerts in 3 years in all the Western countries, UK, Europe, Ukraine, America. It is possible. Is it possible with a family? I don't know. This is my next leap of faith, to take my children. My youngest daughter is 2.5. Can she do daily concerts, 50 concerts in a row for 2 months? And the answer is, of course, no. It's nuts. I'm a crazy, father doing these things. What torture to have to sing in front of people for 2 months in a row. But it's not possible. But with love, all things are possible. And please, look at my example. Not as that I'm a great person or doing heroic things. Look at me as an example how you can be. I'm doing all this without money. I'm doing it all without guns. I do have a car. I do have a house. That's good. But the spirit, true volunteerism, these are the true heroes of the free world today. And glory to the volunteer heroes who are not doing this for money or power or influence. They just want to go home and be themselves.
Well, speaking of heroic parents, I'm going to invite Solomia Wilson and her beautiful daughter, Maria, to kind of weigh in, comment, ask a question. Solomia hails originally from the Washington, D.C. area, where there's a very thriving and active Ukrainian American community.
Hello, Solomia. Very pleased.
Добрий день. Hello, привіт. This is Maria. She might talk a little bit while I'm asking my question, so apologies if you hear a shriek. She just learned how to shriek this week. So my question, or I guess more so not question, more of like a general, let's see, general thought I had as you were talking about all of like the powerful things you can do through your music. As a graphic designer and as an artist, I think Maria. As an artist in general, I think we don't necessarily see ourselves as being powerful and being able to, make a difference, because you think of like, politicians and things like that. Those are the people of action, but clearly us artists, we can do a lot as well.
Of course, and graphic production, especially in the internet age, social media, this is a super powerful tool. Don't give your job to the robots. It will never be the same. Good for you, Solomia. Good for you. And really, this is what I learned on the Maidan, the second Maidan of dignity. Going to, the central square in Kyiv, those cold, winter days, and just watching everybody working like bees. And my brother's a beekeeper. Who is giving these people orders? Who is telling them what to do? Who is leading the Maidan, both the Maidans? And the answer is, when you have true volunteers, God tells each what to do, right? And anybody of any profession, any work, has their own little bit. As Tolkien would say, even those little hobbits might have very serious central roles to not just the politicians, the presidents. And this is true. This is very true. These positions of political power are illusions. The true power is in you. It is, the spirit in you. And if you are taking responsibility, then you will be given a lot of power to do a lot of good things. So this is how I think the free world will work. Also, we're not going to have maybe all the allies we'd like to that maybe we had, but it's okay. God takes into account each person's thoughts and prayers and actions, and a Christian philosophy that God allows war in that part of the world, where only through war people can finally open their eyes to the truth and do the right thing. I think that's the prophet Hosea wrote these things. And once God sees the world goes into the next freer phase, the more spiritual phase, then he will help us defeat Putin and his, horde, and allow us to help them go home and learn to be good neighbors. And I think we're almost there. I mean, 3 years is a lot of time. We still have a lot of Ukrainians. They haven't started conscripting the women. They've been talking about it for 2 years. And I hope it ends soon, but it looks like we have a little bit more work, and not just with Ukraine, especially with America today. America needs to get our act together. And I'm speaking as an American citizen. And it's time to, open your eyes and your ears and see what's going on and make a very quick change. Again, Russia works not just from the outside, but also from the inside. And they're terribly, terribly, terribly effective. Does everybody's microphones work? I can't really get I can't hear anything.
We
I
can.
think
Okay.
Victor and I were being polite to each other, waiting for the other to jump in, I think is what happened.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Salomia. Thank you, Yuri. We can talk for a long time. Let me ask any of our viewers, people who join the panel. I don't even know some. We have quite a bit of people. Can you ask, if you wish, please open your microphone. And here is John Yeager. John is one who found Yuri for us, and we are going to meet his family life here in Huntington, West Virginia on April 3rd, I hope. Before you start, John, let me just ask Yuri, you're starting your tour in March right now, yes?
Yes, in 2 weeks, we start off for Philadelphia, the first stop. We go up to Vermont, then we go over to Pittsburgh area and down to West Virginia. So that's the start of the tour. Then we go up to Minnesota, through Chicago, Detroit, all those areas, go all the way down to Wyoming, Casper, Wyoming, go down through Texas to Houston, then all the way over to Florida, have a weekend in Florida, then go back up to Raleigh, North Carolina, where we fly back out to go home to Ukraine. So it's about a 2 month period, 2 months, almost daily concerts. Hopefully we'll have some free days like Monday, Tuesday. So a big tour.
Please, John.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was getting at. Were you able to get a hold of there's two Ukrainian churches in the Cleveland area, and then I mentioned the other one in near Lexington, Kentucky, and then of course, will you be with Anastasia Bard in Richwood, New Jersey?
Good question. Anastasia, I just wrote her and sent her 4 flyers. She said, give me a call if you'll be in the New York, New Jersey area. So 4 concerts there out of the total of 6 concerts, I think. So in Kentucky, unfortunately, I wrote some letters to the parishes and text to the contacts. I didn't get an answer back. But realistically, we don't have any more free days in the West Virginia, Kentucky area. After Huntington, we will go to Cincinnati, Bloomington, Lansing, Michigan, Milwaukee, Houghton, Michigan, Ely, Minnesota, Minneapolis, Chicago, St. Louis, and then on and on. So Kentucky, unfortunately, didn't happen this tour. In fact, I've never had a concert in Kentucky, but I think maybe next tour, hopefully next tour.
Please. Thank you. More questions from the panel, please? From the viewers, from our guests? have?
While we're waiting for that,
Yes, please.
I'm going to just announce that our next clip is going to be our final one, and it's Cloud over Liman. And I think traditionally we end with my closing, but I would like to do the closing first and then go to the music to play us out. And I think we may be at that point.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So
Please.
I'm going to go ahead and wrap the show up, but please stay on for like a chat afterwards. And then after the closing, we'll go out with a really beautiful, soothing melody. So
In really proper way. This is Ukraine crying for help again.
Perfect day for it. Дорогі браття і сестри в Україні, ми зберігаємо вас у наших щоденних думках і молитвах. Нехай милосердний Бог тримає вас у своїй опіці. До наступного тижня. Прощаємося. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!